Alright, so I've got here a 2012 Les Paul Traditional, and it has the standard sort of common tuning issues that you get with the Gibson style headstock. So maybe you can hear this here on the D and G strings in particular. See if I can get it to go. Yep, there you go. Can you hear that ticking sound? No. There you go. Yep, so there's a small ticking sound, and that throws it out of tune. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do three things to try and alleviate this, and none of these involve upgrading hardware like locking tuners or anything like that. This is just what you can do at home with like your regular setup when you change your strings. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we are. Strings are off. I went ahead and I cleaned the fretboard and polished the frets and just kind of did your standard setup here. So the three things that we're gonna do, we're gonna look at three areas. The first is gonna be the tuning machine pegs where the string wraps. The next is gonna be the nut itself. And then the very last is gonna be the saddles where the string rests here. These three areas, if we can minimize friction, because I mean the string, that's the only point that it touches here where it's mounted, lays over the saddle here, and then comes across here at the nut, and then of course is wrapped and anchored here at the peg. So what we did was I took some micro mesh, and this is just 20 bucks on Amazon, several different grades. You got 1500 to 12,000 grit. I just took, for example, I took the biggest grit, the 1500, and I just took it here and I ran it through the saddles, each one. Now these were in pretty good shape. They were already pretty smooth, but I just went ahead and did it anyway for each saddle. So each saddle just ran across a few times. The idea was to try and get rid of any burrs or friction points of contact. This is probably not where the tuning instability comes from, but you should do it anyway. Why not? Just to make sure. The next thing that I did was I took a higher grade. I took the, if I can remember here, I took the 2400 and the 3200, and in two passes, I went ahead and I went through each of the slots. First with the 2400, and then again with the 3200. And the idea was, so I didn't just take it and run it through, each slot. You'll notice that on Gibson headstocks, the break angle of these two middle strings here is super extreme. I can just zoom out here like that. It's a very sharp angle there. Not as much as for the E string. The E strings are a little more straight going in. So your biggest concern should be the two center strings, the D and the G, and then the A and the B. And just for good measure, you can go ahead and run it through the E's. But the part you really want to focus on, if I can get in real close here, you want to focus on the outside area there, because that's where the string's actually being pressed against. Not so much on this side here. It's going to be this side, the break angle. On this guy, it's going to be here. So I went ahead and did that. I just went through each one, trying to get it down a little bit. Not too much. You don't want to, sand it. You're just trying to remove any kind of sharp angle. For illustration, I just made a quick drawing here, you know, this is the nut here, this is the tuning peg, and this is the string. Okay, if you zoom in to this point of contact right there, which is here, that's going to be that point where you hear the ping or the tick. When you are tuning or detuning the string and you hear a ting, it's going to be that literal point. So that's going to be the point that you're going to want to sand, not sand, but kind of round off a little bit if you can. Also, so wound strings they're wound, right? So you have the actual winds going around the core. If it's going to be sitting between a wind and you're going to be pulling back and forth, that's also going to contribute to the pinging and the instability. So you don't have to, but one of the things I would recommend are Elixir Nanoweb strings. They make, there's 3 different levels. There's polyweb, which are very thick, nanoweb, which are in the middle, and then I think they're called micro. There's a third category where they're like, it's a very thin coating. These strings, I love them because there's a coating on the wound strings, kind of like wax or poly, whatever, and this really makes the string more smooth, and it reduces this micro point of contact with the strings. So I'm going to be using Elixir Nanoweb's 1046 on this Les Paul to try and help me alleviate this tuning issue. And then last but not least, for the nut, I just took a pencil, your standard pencil that you have at home, and I just put a little bit of graphite on that contact point there, just to give it a little bit of lubrication. So let me go ahead, I will string it up here, and then I will come back and show you how I strung it up and how I wound the string at the end. All right, all done. So starting with the bridge, the first thing that I did, and I do not think this has anything to do with tuning stability, but I want to do it anyway. It's called top wrapping. Just Google Les Paul top wrap. Basically what you do is you lower your tailpiece as low as it can go against the body. This one's not cool. It's just against the body, you can see right there. And then you put the string in here, wrap it around, and go as normal. What this does is it creates, maybe you can see here, a little bit more of a shallower break angle over the saddle. Before, the way it was strung, the strings were touching the tailpiece here. So number one was I top wrapped, but I don't think this will impact tuning stability, but FYI. The next thing, go down here, it's all strung up. All right, is I locked the strings, as you can see here. I took the string, wrapped it around, and put it through, and then tightened the string. It's called, if you just Google YouTube videos how to do it, super easy. You basically just pull the string through itself and create like a little bit of a knot. And I do it differently than most people. I try and do it with as much, or as little rather, wraps as possible. You can see that I still need to go a little bit more. There's a little bit of a gap there. I gotta tighten that. But the idea is that I wanna have as minimum string winds as possible. And when possible, like for example, on the, well, that one's, so like for example, this G string here, it's just barely, it's not even wrapped once all the way around. I have it locked on itself. The string, where is it here? There we go. The string is pulled up through there, and it's locking itself with that tension with not even a full wind. Some people might see this and freak out, but for me, it stays in tune, and it's gonna keep the the tuning stability as best as we can get it. Some of these I still got to tighten, like for example, you can see here this B is kind of a mess. I got to pull a little bit more and get the tension correct. But otherwise, yeah, this is the strategy here. And then when possible, when it does wrap around the string here, I'm gonna put it over the previous string wind here instead of under. What that does is that will reduce just a little bit this break angle here. If the string can rest at or above the eye of the peg, that would be better than if it were below here. It'd be more of an extreme break angle. So there you have it. Those are the 3 things I did: wrapping the strings, locking, filing or smoothing out the nut on the corners, smoothing and filing the saddles, and then bonus, but not really much to do with tuning stability, is top wrapping. So I will go ahead and leave comments below if you guys want a follow-up video about how I think it stays in tune. Just ask, I'd be happy to post it. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.